And as promised earlier today, we are back with a live reaction to the 2022 NBA Draft Lottery. The draft lottery starts at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and I'm really, really excited for it. Austin, I know you are as well. What's your thoughts so far on the NBA Draft Lottery? Are we going to see anything crazy coming from the NBA today? Any maybe cheating or scandals coming from tonight?
Yeah, I mean, there's always that team that just magically moves up for no reason. Um, I have my theories on things with the NBA lottery. However, at the end of the day, it is what it is, and we look at the Memphis Grizzlies and how franchise changing that was to get Ja Morant, because their trajectory pre-Ja Morant selection was not looking great. And I think the same, could be true for a lot of these teams sitting in the lottery. I mean, a team that could jump up and get into that top part of it, I think is, really, really exciting. So looking at it right now, what team do you think magically will reappear in that top four? I feel like the Spurs just have this weird aura about them for jumping up.
It's funny that you say that, because actually San Antonio is the team that I did narrow down as the team to watch for, simply because I think that they're going to be the team that probably does jump up. I just have a weird feeling about them specifically. Last year I had this feeling about Toronto. We all know how that played out. They got Scotty Barnes, which obviously really changed, again, the direction of their franchise, and that's really what tonight's all about. Tonight is the night that changes direction of franchises. It's kind of crazy that a lot of the NBA comes down to ultimately if a team does well with their ping pong ball lottery combinations tonight. And it's kind of sad that that's the reality, but at the same time, there's not really a better way to go about this, because tanking otherwise would be really heavily prevalent. It already is in the lottery. I couldn't imagine if it was done like the NFL, where the worst team just gets the first overall pick. Every year we'd have teams legitimately like trying to lose every single game of the season, I feel, trying to get a specific player. So definitely good that the NBA has the lottery, but it definitely does lend itself to a little bit of crazy end results as well, which, for me, that doesn't feel good. I have my predictions here, Austin, from earlier as well. You're good now too, by the way, I think, with the one thing. But looking at where we were at specifically, my predictions here earlier, this is what I went with. I had Rockets picking 1, Kings at 2, Pistons at 3, Spurs at 4. Break down your thoughts on that, Austin. Here are the overall odds as well. So Houston, Orlando, Detroit, OKC have the 4 best odds tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of looking at it here, I think we should be good audio-wise now. I'm looking at the team. Let me prompt you with this. What team desperately needs the first overall pick? I mean, when looking at this, who's the team that desperately has to get that pick, and what are some of the dark horse teams that you think could maybe jump here?
So there's 3 teams that I think are really, really dependent on tonight for completely different reasons. First of all, for me, I think one of those teams is Orlando, because I think they actually have probably the worst outlook in the league right now, simply from a talent standpoint. Now, they do have the assets from the Bulls as well, from the Nikola Vucevic trade, and it's not like this team is terrible. I think they are a pretty good team. I just think, like, in terms of some of the young players that they have, I just think that ultimately they're missing that guy. They're missing the top player that they need, and I think Orlando would badly need number 1, whether that gives them a trade asset. They look to move down and still get a guy like Paulo Banchero, or maybe they decide that Jaden Ivey is the guy they want to go with. Otherwise, outside of Orlando, another team I'm going to look at is Indiana with the Pacers. They have not picked in the top 9 since 1989, which is longer than you and I have been alive, which is absolutely insane that they have not been in the top 9. Last time they were in the top 10, they picked Paul George 10th overall. Obviously, that played out pretty well. Indiana is a really good franchise, very well run, but ownership there does not like to lose. And the reality with how that impacts their attendance clearly is something they do not want to do. So this might be their only crack at a legit shot at number 1. You see they have a 10.5% chance to get there. They lost the last 10 games of the season, which was huge for maintaining their status at number 5. So they've got some decent odds going into this. And then the final team, and I think this one's going to be the surprise one to a lot of people, Detroit. I think Detroit badly needs to land number 1, at least number at least a top 3 pick. And my reasoning as to why here is they nailed it with Cade Cunningham last year, and he's such a good player. This might be their last time in the top 3. This could realistically be their last opportunity to grab another blue chip guy, because I think Cade Cunningham is going to start pulling this team, a long ways moving forward. He's such a special player, and I think if Detroit can get a top 3 pick here, whether that's Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, Jaden Ivey, Paolo Banchero, whoever they select, it would go a long way in giving a running mate to Cade Cunningham. Austin, what's your thoughts on that as well? Are you kind of aligned with me, or is there a team that you think I missed here?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it spot on, but the team I want to definitely highlight is Sacramento. I think Sacramento is a franchise that kind of pushed the chips forward when they made that Sabonis trade. Obviously, they felt that they were going to be very, very competitive, but I think a lot of where this team heads in the near future hinges on this pick. I mean, they got to jump up. They got to get into that top 4, in my opinion. Yes, it is a deeper class, but they got to try to right the wrongs. I think people already feel that they're potentially the losers of that, Tyrese Halliburton trade, which very well could be the case. However, they could kind of right the wrongs and really turn this franchise around by getting into that top 4. I think they're a team that's got a lot of pressure internally and externally.
That's a great point there. And during the NBA trade deadline, I was actually live when that happened, when the Halliburton deal broke, and I was kind of shook by that. I did not expect him to get traded this quickly into his rookie contract. And I think there was probably a lot of pressure from ownership to at least make pushes toward the playoffs, at least hope to get into the play-in tournament. Obviously, it didn't play out that way. In fact, it kind of had the reverse effect here, where they actually lost more games since making that move. But you see them now. They have the 7th best odds, 4 straight drafts. We've seen the team with the 7th best odds move up in the draft lottery. So will it be 5 straight years, or will the Sacramento Kings fall short again? We'll see. That's going to be a fun storyline to follow. Thanks, everyone, for all the comments. Really do appreciate that. Dalton, welcome to the stream. He says, let's go Pacers. Thanks so much. Bro, I'm at work with no way to stream, not hooked to my home Wi-Fi. Well, we'll be making sure you guys can hear who's picking where, and we'll be covering everything that you guys need to know. Leave a like on today's stream as well if you are enjoying. And we have some comments here. Hope Sacktown Kings pick Kai Soto. Definitely would be an interesting second-round grab. Kings get Jabari, Chet, or Paulo. That'd be huge for them. Austin, I want to know your thoughts here. A funny comment here real quick from Aaron, too. Adam Silver just called me up, told me Knicks are moving into the top 4. We'll have to watch for that. But here's my predictions, Austin. 1 Rockets, 2 Kings, 3 Pistons, 4 Spurs. I want to hear, how do you think this all plays out? Who do you have moving up into the top 4?
Yeah, I definitely have Houston staying at number 1. I have Orlando probably hanging at that number 2 spot. I have Detroit. Probably Detroit. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say that it stays this year. I'm gonna say nobody jumps into the top 4, which I don't know when the last time that was where somebody didn't jump. Do we have a stat on that?
I need to pull up that stat. I do not have that off the top of my head, but I mean it makes sense. And if you are actually playing by the odds here, there is way better chance here that Houston, Orlando, Detroit, and OKC are picking in the top 4. Just simply looking at the actual numbers here, Oklahoma City has a 6% chance better than Indiana to stay in the top 4. And then you look at the top 3 there with the new lottery rule since 2017, all 52% chances to be in the top 4. I want you guys to comment your takes in the comment section right now. Who do you think gets into the top 4? Max here says Pelicans top 4 with the hot take. That would be crazy. And that even makes the Anthony Davis trade look even wilder in hindsight. Obviously, I already got a top 4 pick in that deal for AD, but now maybe another one is in the books. We'll see exactly what could happen. Gerald here says Cade paired with Jabari or Ivy will be an unstoppable duo. Exactly. So give us your comment section. And this is the big one here, Austin. Carter Killian. As a Thunder fan, I can feel a heartbreak brewing. Let's talk about OKC, because I think they're the team that most people kind of think of when you think NBA draft lottery, specifically with this newest iteration of the Sam Presti styled franchise in OKC. What's your thoughts on Oklahoma City? Do you feel any luck brewing for them tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can also expect some heartbreak potentially looking at the Oklahoma City Thunder. A lot of what they're trying to do hinges on hitting on draft picks. And if Sam Presti moves down from 4, that really, changes things. That definitely changes things. We know his draft history when he's picking in that top 4, but outside of that, a little suspect with some of the selections. However, hopefully he can stay in the top 4. He'll probably make the correct selection there, but it does make a big difference for them if they fall out of that top 4, and it kind of changes the overall outlook of this team. I think when you look at the pieces they have now, they're off to a good start to this rebuild, but at the same time, they need another transcendent player to really accelerate the rebuild.
Yeah, most definitely. And let's look at that Oklahoma City draft history a little bit, because I think everyone loves to assume Stan Presti's just this phenomenal GM. And I think, at certain points of his tenure there in OKC, he has done a lot of great things. But we also look at some of the moves he's made recently. Going back to not this past draft, but the one before it, drafted Emmanuel Quickly, traded him to the Knicks, drafted Brandon Clark the year before, traded him to Memphis. Year before that, did not have a first rounder. 2017 first round pick Terrence Ferguson out of the league. First round pick had pick 14, took Cam Payne out of Murray State. Cam Payne clearly did not work in Oklahoma City. Caught on with the Suns a little bit later on in his career, but clearly not the right selection. 2014 pick 21 Mitch McGary, pick 29 Josh Hustis. Neither of them really worked out. Pick 12 Steven Adams, that's a nice selection. Pick 29 Archie Goodwin, who got traded. And 32, Alex Abrinas, who played in the NBA for 174 games. 2012, pick 28, Perry Jones, played less than 150 games in his career. Pick 24 in 2011, Reggie Jackson, pretty good selection. And then we keep going from there. Traded the rights to Eric Bledsoe. And then, of course, then you get back into the top 5 there, top 4, like you said. 07, Kevin Durant. 2008, Russell Westbrook. 2009, James Harden. So did really good in the top 4, like you mentioned. And it's crazy how everything kind of shifts and changes throughout that time, where he's missed outside the top 4 a lot. Obviously, some good selections in there as well. But then you also see some serious misses. So we'll have to keep our eyes on them. Here we have some thoughts coming in. Wesley says Orlando, OKC, San Antonio, and Detroit. Kush here, who was in our earlier stream, says Rockets 1, Oklahoma City 2, Portland 3, and Sacramento 4. And we're seeing a lot of praying here for certain teams. Sacramento, Knicks, Hornets. We see the doubtful here for the Spurs getting top 4. Wizards, Sacramento again. A lot of hope. And I think that's really the biggest thing from the NBA draft lottery specifically. There's a lot of hope instilled at this time of year. Austin, which team should have hope tonight? And how important is it getting a top 4 pick?
Yeah, I mean, a team that I feel pretty good about right now is the Houston Rockets, off to a really good start in their rebuild. A lot of young pieces. Once again, they need a piece that's going to kind of tie it all together. Maybe that's Chet Holmgren, maybe it's Jabari Smith, Jaden Ivey. There's a lot to like about what the Houston Rockets have definitely built. There's also some questions about where it could go if they ended up falling out of that top 4, which once again, not very likely. But I think that they're a team that should be pretty hopeful for where they're heading. A lot of other teams definitely, you can create a lot of scenarios saying, well, this team, if all goes right, this team's going to be in a really good position. But I think there's major concerns for, all these teams that are sitting in the lottery. They're not just a piece away, most of them. There's a couple that are, definitely going to need a few more pieces to really be in true contention.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right about that. And then another interesting note from the NBA draft lottery is it opens up our ideas for potential trades that could be looming. A few years ago, I alluded to it earlier. The Anthony Davis trade was so vital that the Lakers moved up to pick number 4 that year. It incentivized the Pelicans even more to make a trade with the Los Angeles Lakers to get that 4th overall pick. Of course, they later traded that down, passed on Darius Garland with that decision. Obviously not the greatest move, but they've set themselves up in a pretty interesting spot. So let's say a certain team moves up, or the Hornets find themselves in an interesting spot here. Would they be willing to swap picks in a PJ Washington deal? And that's a great question here, Chris. I think a team to watch for PJ Washington would be San Antonio in a Jakob Poeltl deal, where maybe pick 13 goes to San Antonio with PJ Washington for Poeltl. Austin, what's your thoughts on a move like that?
Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. The Hornets have been looking for acquiring a big man. They've tried a couple of things with Plumlee and Montrezl Harrell. They've been looking to get some bigs in the mix. And I think that they just haven't been able to necessarily get the true guy that they're looking for. At the same time, San Antonio's looking for a promising forward that can, put the ball on the deck and score the basketball, and that's really what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I would love PJ Washington there in San Antonio. I think it fills a huge need. And then we'll see how they go about having, then at that point, 4 first-round picks. San Antonio is definitely in a strong position. Ryan says, as a Rockets fan, I'm enjoying going through the draft the last couple of years. During the Moore years, we rarely kept our picks, so didn't have much to be excited for. If I'm not mistaken, I think last year was the first time the Rockets had a first-round pick since 2015 where they took Sam Decker. So definitely a change of pace here for you, Ryan. Glad to see that for you at this point, that you're at least enjoying the draft process. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. I would say that for sure. And then we're getting a little bit more hope here live from New York. Bulls had a 1.7% chance to land number 1 in 2008. Of course, that's infamously known as the Derrick Rose draft. Knicks have a 2% chance, so he's trying to talk himself into that chance. And now here, Austin, we got a question about the Pistons here. Do we see a guy like Miles Bridges or maybe DeAndre Ayton heading to Detroit? What's your thought on the Pistons? Maybe if they get pick number 1 here and add one of those 2 guys, it could be franchise changing.
Yeah, and I'm kind of looking at DeAndre Ayton. I talked about it in my son's video. I just don't see him potentially fitting into the future outlook of the Phoenix Suns. He's going to command a max contract. I feel very strongly about that. There's going to be a lot of teams lining up to pay him. And I just don't know if the Phoenix Suns are really there. And I think in DeAndre Ayton's camp, they are not happy with the Suns internally. They definitely voiced some of their concerns. Some of that had gotten leaked out even during the postseason, more specifically this past series. So the overall outlook for DeAndre Ayton in Phoenix, I'm not seeing it. And I think that Detroit would be one of those teams lining up to pay him 100%. A couple of nice pieces on that roster. Pair him with Cade Cunningham. I think that's a really good start to, accelerating that rebuild per se.
Right. And we have a great question here. What pick was Tim Duncan? He was the first overall selection over 2 decades ago. And obviously we know how much that swayed the future of the San Antonio Spurs. I believe that was the last time they had picked number 1 as well. So maybe San Antonio, they could be due. It's been over 2 decades since they picked first overall in the NBA draft. Of course, they've had so much team success. It's understandable as to why they haven't had very many cracks in the lottery, but I think they're due, which is partially why I have them moving up this year into the top 4. Ondre here says, can this draft be called really top heavy? Top 4 picks much better than the rest of the draft? I don't believe that at all, Austin. You've heard me go on rants about this for the last 3-4 years. They say this every year. The Anthony Edwards draft was labeled as a 2-player or 3-player draft with Edwards, Wiseman, and LaMelo Ball. But then, you fast forward and guys like Tyrese Maxey end up having really good seasons, really good careers. And he went in the 20s, right? Tyrese Maxey, there's been multiple times where we've labeled him untradeable in a deal for James Harden, and he was in the 20s where he got drafted. It happens every year. Think about Steph Curry, 7th overall pick. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 15th overall. Luka Doncic didn't even go in the top 2 of his own draft. There's a lot of times where experts and evaluators get stuff wrong. And to assume that only the top 4 picks from one class are going to be good makes you, it's just not realistic. That's not how basketball works. That's not how draft evaluation really goes. There's a lot of impactful players that will go outside the top 4 this year. I think the top 10 is really loaded. And I think even, 11 through 35 or 40 is going to be a collection of good players in the NBA. And then Austin here, Bob says, where do you see the Spurs going and why? Let's assume here that they stay around pick 8. What could they be looking for?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the San Antonio Spurs, maybe they will be looking potentially at a big man once again. I think Jakob Poeltl being traded could be a real possibility. These prospects better than I do. At the spot they would be in, who's the best available center for them?
Jalen Duren for sure would be one if he slides to them. Of course, New Orleans might really consider them in front of San Antonio if San Antonio does not move up. Otherwise, a Keegan Murray, if he's available, makes a lot of sense at the 4. I think, San Antonio is probably going to be looking for some size. And then here we have a great question. Jordan says, you still regretting the Porzingis trade? That was an epic moment on deadline day. Yeah, my heart got ripped out on stream. And yes, the results have panned out for Dallas, but I'm not someone who's really a believer in results-based confidence. Just because stuff has worked out doesn't mean it's a great move. Spencer Dinwiddie headed into Game 7 shooting 36% from the field through the playoffs. So, yes, the Mavericks are where they want to be, But ultimately, you know, we're going to thank Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson for that. And both of those players were already there in Dallas. The Mavericks have a serious rebounding problem. I think Kevon Looney's going to make them pay for that a little bit in the Western Conference Finals here. And I think Kristaps would have, you know, fixed some of those issues. But at the same time, you know, the league goes on. The Mavericks are fine. They have Luka Doncic. Kind of the same feel I had then. I feel like you just minimized his value with that deal. Now moving on to what Big Bird has to say. You'll have to realize that even Michael Jordan went third. Exactly right. This is exactly the point. And this actually brings me to a great point here, Austin. Portland Trailblazers. So Blazers fans, I'm sorry for bringing this up. They took Sam Bowie, second overall, over Michael Jordan, and the GM was quoted as saying, "We need a center." Do you think teams in the top 5 or even maybe top 10 should draft based off of need or best player available? And at what point do you draw a line there? At what spot should you start drafting based off of fit?
If you're in that top 4 and you're going off of, oh, we need this specifically, so we're going to take the worst player yet. I think that's bad practice. I look at the Orlando Magic. You know, they have a lot of guards with Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz. They got a lot of guys in the mix there in Orlando, but I don't think that should ever prevent them from taking a guy like Jaden Ivey. You can always trade some of those lesser players for other assets to kind of fill the overall needs of your team. And, you know, you got to reconstruct your roster based around a star. So I think you should always take in your mind number 1 player on your board, regardless of position, regardless of who you have on the roster currently. I think once again, it's just bad practice to go ahead and say, well, we have a couple of competent guys at a set area. Therefore, we're not going to cater our top 4 pick to that.
Right. Specifically, you know, you killed it with that Magic comparison. Like, the Orlando Magic won 22 games. I don't know why people are so gung-ho on saying, oh, they don't need a point guard. They've got these guys that led them to 22 wins. You know, Jaden Ivey's just flat out better than anyone they've got on their roster, in my opinion. So I think, you know, like, if they're in a position where they think Ivey's the best player, they should just take Ivey. And now we have a question here. This is coming from a Knicks fan. So he wants to know our take on the infamous frozen envelope lottery back in 1985 that gave Patrick Ewing to the New York Knicks. You know, and David Stern was definitely a shady commissioner at times. So my thought is there was a little bit of a rig job going on there. Austin, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely think that that's a very fair theory. And I also kind of want to allude to the idea of getting these bigger market teams to star players is great. But what's even better is getting small market teams a star player to make that team marketable. The Knicks will always be marketable no matter how good or bad they are. The New Orleans Pelicans are not marketable without Zion, per se. Not as marketable, but when you get Zion in the building, he creates an entire market himself. A lot of people want to watch Pelican games just for that. So it's actually just better practice to go ahead and make sure that they play on the teams in the small market, which is kind of crazy to think. You'd think, oh, you'd want the star to be in LA, in New York, in Chicago. Sometimes it's actually better to have them in the smaller market to really create that for an area and a team more specifically to drive up, you know, revenue for some of those small market teams. That a lot of it hinges on, you know, the success of the team. A lot of times in those areas, you'll see fair weather fans. And I think that's just the reality of the situation.
And that's really been the MO of Adam Silver as commissioner in the NBA. A lot of the time when a team moves up in the lottery, it's been a smaller market team or a team with a unique type of market at least. Look at Memphis when they jumped up from 7-2 to get John Morant. You already mentioned New Orleans going up to number 1 to get Zion Williamson while Anthony Davis was requesting out. Those are 2 great examples. You could also consider Toronto, who isn't a small market, obviously, you know, dominates Canada. But within the United States, I think Scotty Barnes is going to be a huge drawing factor for some youth who are trying to get into basketball. A lot of people are going to like him. It's going to draw more of an audience to Toronto. We saw a lot of this with other teams as well. There's a lot of great examples. Cade Cunningham might be saving Detroit basketball as we know it. So there's a lot of examples of exactly what you're talking about, Austin. I think it's huge. David here with a great comment. Portland should definitely never, ever take a center with a top pick after Bowie and Oden. Definitely not a great track record there. You know, it's okay, though. They only passed on Michael Jordan and Kevin Durant with those 2 picks. So, you know, it could be worse, right? Probably not. But and then we have a question here about the Grizzlies. Don't they get the Lakers pick? If that pick falls to 11, which there's only a 0.7% chance of, then yes. But otherwise, no, they do not. And Chris here says that's why I think the Kings will be top 3 in this draft, which Austin, do you think let's go look at the odds here for Sacramento real quick. They have a 32% chance to be top 4 and a 7.5% chance at number 1. Are you hitting the over or under on Sacramento moving up?
I have a feeling they're I don't know, because I also went into this thinking that teams are going to stay in that top 4, so it'd be kind of switching up on what I was saying. I don't know. Sacramento, if there's a team moving up, I feel it's them. I just have this odd feeling that Sacramento will jump, and then obviously one of those top 4 will fall down. But I have a weird feeling about them. And now it's 7:00. Do you want to present some of the audio for people to listen to the presentation here?
Yeah, I've got it. It's still just like a minute out here for me on this, so we'll be there in just a second. And now looking at the my prediction here again real quick. Here we go now. It's finally starting up. My prediction here, the Rockets 1, Kings 2, Pistons at 3, and the San Antonio Spurs, picking 4th overall. So I did buy into the Kings moving up this year. We'll see, but Portland could be a sleeper as well. Mr. Ray obviously giving a little bit of love to the Detroit Pistons. A little bit more Portland love as well. Definitely going to be crazy to see how this all plays out. So, Austin, your final prediction, who's picking number 1? Houston?
Yeah, I'm going to have Houston there. I'm going to have Orlando, Sacramento, OKC. That's going to be my prediction here. I like what we're seeing so far. From the lottery, there's so much excitement that builds up, a lot of optimism in all these franchises. And now some of them may never regain that optimism after them being burned in the past by the lottery and just by the selections with those picks. So, it's always a great time of the year to remind yourself there is still hope for your franchise, even though some of us feel hopeless and will always feel hopeless.
Yeah, Austin, of course, as a Clippers fan, likes to pull the drama card out here. So we'll see if he's still feeling hopeless with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on his roster. And real quick, we're gonna sim the lottery on here too. Let's see exactly what plays out. This is our last lottery prediction. Oklahoma City, Orlando, Detroit, Houston is the order here. So actually OKC and Houston just flip spots, which is interesting, Austin. Pretty similar to what you were predicting there. Maybe Austin's onto something, guys. If he is, he's probably a time traveler. So we'll have to see exactly what he's thinking. Jordan Jameson loves the odds here on Cleveland.
Yeah, I think this could be pretty interesting here. I'm super excited. Oklahoma City, man, if they'd land number 1, that'd be crazy too. A lot of nice young pieces on that roster. Shai Gilgeous, Josh Giddey. A lot of these teams, just a couple pieces away, definitely. So we got to be careful too. Once a team jumps up, let's not crown them of, for sure going to the postseason guaranteed next year. We got to be a little careful. These rebuilds take time, definitely do.
Right. Make sure you guys are all subscribed to the channel as well. Tomorrow morning will be an NBA mock draft, full first round, covering the latest changes in the mock draft. Of course, there's going to be a ton of shakeup tonight, more than likely, if the order does go crazy. Get your best wishes in here as well. Use the chat as a prayer circle. Tell the basketball gods specifically what you want to happen tonight. And here we are to NBA draft lottery night. I am so excited. Make sure to rep your team in the chat. Austin, I'm sure the only thing you're praying for as a Clippers fan is to not see number 12 move up into the top 4, right?
Oh yeah, no, I've gone with the expectations that it will move up. I'm a little nervous, but at the end of the day, I just know that it's very possible we lose that Paul George trade. Still, I am still hanging on that, and at the end of the day, I just have to be okay with it.
Definitely will be crazy to see if that happens. Oh my goodness, the Thunder fans are going to be going loud in the chat. Very possible that they could have 2 top 4 picks in this year's draft, which would be insane. We're seeing a lot of praying in the chat right now. Love to see that. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying the content. Again, make sure to subscribe and also leave a like on the stream as well. Let's go ahead and get a draft order pulled up here. I'm going to go ahead and make one real quick right now as we're going. Austin, if you want to talk a little bit more too about what you see specifically impacting the future of the league tonight.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think that the league is in really good hands, especially with this draft. There's so much optimism with these top guys in the draft with Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, Jaden Ivey. Uh, we have Boncaro. There's these top four guys are just so talented, but the rest of the draft, there's going to be a lot of impactful players outside of that. So other guys in the lottery are going to be huge impact players in this league. And I want to know from our comments section, who do you think the best overall prospect in the entire class is? Because there's a ton of divide within the mock draft community. There's a lot of people that don't think Chet Holmgren's even worth a top 4 pick. There's people that think he's the best player in the class. Jaden Ivey's been a hot topic of conversation as well. So there's so much divide within the community. So let me know in the comments section below who you think the best overall prospect is in this class. There's so much that you have to realize that a lot of it, depends on situation. It really does depend on the situation that you're put in. It's the players you have around you. It's the coaching staff. So, obviously players that land in worse situations are just worse off, generally speaking. Not all these guys in the top 4 are necessarily going to be the go-to guy on a roster. I mean, Chet Holmgren will not likely be that true go-to scorer. Maybe he develops into that, but I think he's best served as a very nice complementary player on the offensive end and the defensive end with his rim protection. So thanks again, everybody, for throwing that in the comments section. We got a couple of Jabari Smiths in here. We have a lot of Jabari Smiths from multiple people. Jaden Ivey, Jabari. So there's so much going on here. I really like the amount of talent that has been injected into this league. You think about some of the top players, John Morant, Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, Trae Young. The league is in a great state right now. We've seen some of the legends retire over the last couple of seasons. Now you're re-injecting it with some great youth. A lot of rivalries developing. I'm really excited to watch the rest of the postseason. But it all starts building here. So everything that builds up to the current NBA playoffs was built through the draft, free agency. So this is a pivotal point in these franchises. Let's not forget the Phoenix Suns were a disaster a couple of years ago, selecting guys like Dragan and Bender with their selections, which that definitely threw a wrench into things, and they weren't able to really recover. Finally, they made a couple of solid selections. The Devin Booker selection was absolutely huge. Mikal Bridges. So overall, they were able to turn it over, right the wrongs, because that was a franchise that struggled for quite some time. They were able to kind of pick it back up and get to where they needed to be. This is a franchise that was kind of in shambles, and a couple of right selections can really take you a long way, especially if you're able to hit, even beyond the top 4 picks, because you should be hitting those regardless. However, where the money's really made is, the picks that go beyond that. So a lot of credit to them. Thanks again, everybody. Go ahead and throw your predictions in here. Throw the team that you are repping, because we want to know from you guys, what team are you cheering for tonight? Who do you want to see move up? Who do you want to see move down? Let us know in that comment section below. This is super exciting. I know we should be getting to it pretty quick. I'm still kind of waiting on them to get officially started with presenting the lottery. A lot of these things, take a lot of time to build up. They got a ton of commercial breaks, so we're going to do our best to kind of keep you updated throughout. And I think, let me know once again where you guys think your favorite team will land. Do you think they're going to make the jump, or are they already slotted to be in that top 4? I know I'm pretty excited. Even though I don't have a horse in the race for this one, because my Clippers pick is currently going to Oklahoma City from the Paul George trade, which it's tough to watch. It's definitely tough to watch with how that season ended. Very, very disappointed in how that really went down for us, especially losing to the Pelicans was a tough one for me. A lot of emotional damage there, but what's new in Clipper Nation? That's all I have to say. What is new? We got live from New York with his final predictions here: Magic, Portland, Knicks, Oklahoma City, and Detroit. Very, very possible here that that is what is going on. I think that the Magic moving up to that number 1 spot, and Portland is kind of that dark horse team. I mean, if you pair another player with Damian Lillard, they're going to be right back to the promise. I shouldn't say promised land because they haven't been there, but they're going to make postseason runs. And I think when you're getting toward the end of Damian Lillard's career, you really want to extend that and be super competitive. So You go ahead. Let me know in the comments section below what you are feeling right now. Sean, what are we kind of looking at overall timeline-wise for this lottery? Have they presented any updates for us?
We are about 5 minutes away. They just cut to commercial here, and then we will probably be getting right into it. So, guys, it's coming right now. I'm working on getting the graphic up. So keep putting your predictions in there. Keep using the chat as a prayer circle, and we'll be right back to it. Austin, if you want to keep going away here, maybe we could sim another lottery too to give you something. Let's see here. Who wins this one? Indiana at 1, Detroit, San Antonio, and Houston. So, Austin, break that one down.
Yeah, I still can't believe that, with this latest simulation, imagining that the Pacers moving up to number 1 would be absolute insanity, followed by Detroit. San Antonio is a team we had talked a lot about potentially moving up. I think when you're looking at the next generation of Spurs, they just need another true star to kind of guide them. That'd be absolutely huge if they could jump up there. Houston, then having Orlando, Oklahoma City, Portland, Sacramento. I have this feeling that Sacramento is going to be jumping up there at some point. I don't know. I just have this weird, feeling about them. I like where if Indiana could jump up there, I mean, that future is going to be looking brighter and brighter. I'm kind of looking at it through the scope of the Pacers being this high. It's really weird to me when Sheldon had presented the stat earlier. It's just crazy that they've just been that consistent. They haven't been, completely tanking out. They're always at least average to good, and that's just been the MO of the Pacers for the longest time. The last time they had, picked in that top 10 was Paul George, which was absolutely crazy. They did a really nice job developing that team. If you remember those years of prime Paul George on the Pacers, that was kind of a different breed of basketball. I know, watching him go up against the Miami Heat in that Eastern Conference Finals, that was something special. Watching them, the two heavyweights go back and forth. Roy Hibbert was a part of that team. There was so much great basketball to watch back then. And, obviously we've been able to see some great rivalries start to brew. Let's kind of talk a little bit about the playoffs real quick here while we're waiting for this. In the comments section, let me know who you think the finals matchup will be, because you have the Boston Celtics, Miami Heat, and then you have the Dallas Mavericks and the Golden State Warriors facing off, which a lot of heavyweights in this one. Obviously, Boston-Miami is a great matchup. You have the Dallas Mavericks and Golden State Warriors, and that was not a well-predicted matchup out of that Western Conference. A lot of people had the Phoenix Suns advancing past Dallas, which a lot of people felt that way. I think that was a good majority. That was kind of the thought process. We thought Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, a good collection of depth players and guys that are pretty good defenders overall, like Mikal Bridges, could kind of slow down Luka Doncic. And we've been able to see Luka Doncic has really solidified himself for sure as a top 3 player in the world. And I don't think that's really an argument. Some people feel that way, some people don't. But when you look at what he brings as a scorer, as a playmaker, as a rebounder, there's so much to like about his game, and you realize that he can truly carry a team. Now, his biggest downfall had been, losing to the Clippers in the first round the 2 previous seasons, which that wasn't necessarily fair considering how talented those Clippers teams were during that time. And obviously, Kristaps Porzingis injuries definitely didn't help things. But they really pushed the Clippers to the max last year. And then now finally we were able to see them pull off that big Game 7 against Phoenix, where they absolutely dominated the game. So, through and through, it was absolutely phenomenal to watch. And once again, guys, please be patient. We're still waiting for, some of these results to come in. We will get the audio for you. It's really important that, we stay here together through this, because some of the fans are going to be crying in here. There's going to be some overjoyed fans. Once again, I don't have a horse in the race, but I'm excited to see some of the reactions. I'm not nervous at all. So yeah, we are still waiting for the lottery to start. It was supposed to start at 7:00. So be mindful of that. And, we're going to continue to push forward here, still waiting for these results to come in, and we will be having that audio. So be very, very mindful of that. And we'll kind of jump to a couple of other things here. We got the Celtics defense versus the Warriors offense in the finals would be a perfect representation of the conferences. Joe, you make a very interesting point. The Celtics defensively have been absolutely unstoppable this year. I mean, they've just been clamping up teams. They've done a really, really good job playing team defense. And, the Golden State Warriors offense is super, super exciting to watch. You have, the go-to scorers and Steph Curry. Jordan Poole has really stepped up his game. You look at Andrew Wiggins being a perfect complementary piece. Klay Thompson, Draymond Green is really the heartbeat of that team as well. So looking at that, I think there's a lot to love about that potential finals matchup with the Celtics and Warriors, but who knows how it's going to go. I know Sheldon feels his Mavs are going to make the finals, which is pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting to get them out. We're saying it finally.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting too. I got to hear you say that those Clippers teams were pretty talented that took down Luka Doncic, Austin. So that's a little weird. At this point, the only person in the NBA that can guard Luka seems to be Kawhi Leonard. So I'm gonna keep that over Austin's head as well. Austin, I don't know if you saw the stat from the Suns Mavs series or not, but Luka Doncic actually led that series in scoring, assists, and rebounds, and had more steals than Mikal Bridges in that series, which is just insane. He had an all-time great series against Phoenix. And here we are. Let's look at the odds here again. On the bottom line, Rockets, 14% chance at pick one. Magic and Pistons as well, 14%. Austin, Thunder have 12.5%. Pacers, 10.5%. Blazers at a 9% chance. Kings, 7.5%. Pelicans, not far off, 6% chance. That would be terrifying for the league. Spurs, 4.5%. Wizards, 3%. Knicks 2%, Thunder 1.5% with the Clippers pick, Hornets 1%, and the Cavs 0.5% chance. Crazy. Again, give your final predictions. Make sure you guys all hit the like button and subscribe for more 2022 NBA draft content. Hopefully you guys are enjoying. Remember, we've got an NBA mock draft coming out tomorrow morning with the updated lottery order. PJ Washington, interestingly enough, is the representative for the Hornets. William Wesley representing the Knicks. Wes Unseld Jr., the coach for the Wizards, representing them. David Robinson representing the Spurs. Last time he was playing there, they got to draft Tim Duncan. Definitely interesting what we've got coming up here. Austin, how's the audio?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to turn it up a little bit. We need our audience to participate here. Let us know if you can hear it at all. We want to make sure you can get that audio as clear as we do.
Domantas Sabonis, definitely interesting. Damian Lillard here as well.
Yeah, so let us know once again in that comment section. Can you hear it at all? Because I know on my end, I'm not hearing it as good. Yeah, everybody's saying it's low, so let's go ahead and crank that up a little bit.
All right. Give me 1 second here.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that we are getting that audio to you. Sheldon's going to go ahead, turn that up for you, and then we can get the reactions, simultaneously with you. I think this is going to be really, really awesome. So just give us one moment here while he makes an audio adjustment, and we're going to get right underway because they're just about to present it here pretty quick, and I'm super excited, super pumped. Let's go.
Hey, Austin, how's the lottery coming in now? Can you hear it?
Yeah, we can hear it okay. Once again, it's got to be our people in the comments section. Yeah, that's better, much better.
The time has come. Here is the NBA Deputy Commissioner and Chief Operating Officer Mark Tatum, who will reveal the lottery picks of the 2022 NBA Draft.
Here we go. Mark Tatum stepping out now.
Thank you, Malika, and good luck, everyone. The 14th pick in the 2022 NBA Draft, presented by State Farm, will go to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Cavaliers picking 14.
The 13th pick belongs to the Charlotte Hornets.
Charlotte Hornets picking 13.
Picking 12th will be the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Thunder stay at 12.
Receives this pick from the LA Clippers because of the Paul George trade.
The 11th pick goes to the New York Knicks.
Knicks stay at 11. So far, we've had no movement.
Pick number 10 will be made by the Washington Wizards.
Wizards stay at 10. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Absolutely crazy.
Goes to the San Antonio Spurs.
Spurs at 9.
The 8th pick will be made by
That's still the same. I got scared.
the New Orleans Pelicans.
Pelicans at 8 still.
This pick from the LA Lakers
Oh
because of the
my
Anthony
goodness.
Davis trade.
The 7th pick in the NBA draft belongs to the Portland Trailblazers.
Wow,
The-
that means
Sacramento moved up.
Top four.
Sacramento moved up.
Sacramento. moves up.
Sacramento's in the top 4.
Wow.
6 goes to the Indiana Pacers.
Pacers at 6 now.
Only one envelope remaining before we know all of the teams in the top
Oh
four.
my gosh, Sacramento.
The 5th pick will be made by
Detroit down to 5. Oklahoma City's in the top 4.
Wow.
Is that we have our 4.
Sacramento, OKC,
Oklahoma City, the Magic,
Orlando,
and the Rockets.
and Houston.
The drama, it continues, and we find out the order of the top 4 picks in the 2022 NBA draft. That's next. Don't go anywhere.
Wow.
Okay, we are cutting
wow.
to commercial.
Sacramento jumps up. That's what we had been talking about. Wow. Just had a feeling that they were going to have to jump up. So, I mean, what does this mean for the Sacramento Kings now? I mean, where do you kind of go from here? It's crazy. I don't know what to even say. I mean, you have Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, and then player X, whoever that ends up being. I mean, who's the best fit with that group?
Definitely insane. I feel like Jabari Smith is the most seamless fit because he can almost function as like a star level 3-and-D player where he's going to be able to knock down open jump shots and provide really good perimeter defense, which I think is a perfect fit next to Sabonis. But wow, this is absolutely insane. So Sacramento's still in there. OKC Thunder, looks like their rebuild is paying off. They're in the top 4. The Houston Rockets are still in there. Detroit took a massive L, unfortunately, for the Pistons. And then also the Orlando Magic are still in there as well. So these are the top 4 teams remaining. Absolutely insane here. Glad you guys are all here for this. Remember, we do have the top 4 coming yet. Oklahoma City is at 12 for sure, with still a chance at number 1, 2, 3, or 4. So we'll see where they land. Austin, give me your final predictions here for the 4 remaining teams.
Oh, boy. Houston 1, Sacramento 2, Magic 3, Thunder 4.
I love that. Let's go back and look at my old predictions. I made this a week ago. Obviously, didn't age super well. Rockets, Kings still in play, but Detroit and San Antonio caught the short end of the stick, did not move up in the lottery, and in fact find themselves at a tough spot now. Absolutely crazy. I feel like Shaedon Sharp's almost a lock to Detroit, honestly. I do agree with that. But absolutely insane. These are the 4 remaining teams. We are at commercial break right now, so we will get back to the actual coverage here once they start covering it again, once they continue the live stream here for that. But absolutely insane. If you guys are excited based on these NBA draft lottery results, smash that like button. Also subscribe to the channel for more. I had this crazy feeling about Sacramento, Austin. You did too. They are now in the top 4. What does this mean for that franchise?
Yeah, I mean, really, this gives them a chance to kind of right the wrongs like we had been talking about. I felt that there's a lot of pressure internally to make a competitive roster, and maybe they can get there with De'Aaron Fox, with the the bonus. Also, adding a player like Jabari Smith would be totally game changing for this franchise, and I just feel like that's exactly what they needed to have happen. A little bit of luck gets involved with some of these rebuilds and accelerating that. So a lot of I guess credit to them getting lucky. I don't know. I don't really know what you want to call it, but I look at the Sacramento Kings as in a much better position now than they were 5 minutes ago.
Oh, most definitely. This is how important the draft lottery is, right? 5 minutes ago, we're looking at the Kings and saying, oh boy, if they don't get a top pick, they might be in some trouble. And now in a class that has some really great top-end talent, they are guaranteed a top 4 pick at this point to put next to Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. This is exactly what we could call a franchise-changing selection. No, the picks have not started back up yet. Don't worry, I am watching it. I'll make sure that we get the audio in for that. Absolutely crazy how everything has played out up to this point. And it looks like we are back here. So let's get the audio up now.
Presented by State Farm. Here's a look at Jaylen Brown. He was
We're talking about Jaylen Brown and the Celtics here to start off. But here we have a prediction. Rockets, OKC, Magic, Sacramento. We'll see if that plays out that way.
So we're down to the final 4 teams. Who is going to get the number 1 pick in this year's NBA draft? Might it be Sacramento, Oklahoma City, Orlando, or Houston? Joining us once again to announce the order of the top 4 picks is NBA Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum.
Thanks again, Malika. The 4th pick in the 2022 NBA draft presented by State Farm goes to the Sacramento Kings.
Sacramento picking 4.
The 3rd pick goes to the Houston Rockets.
Houston is at 3. Huge
The 2nd
disappointment for them.
The Oklahoma City Thunder.
OKC is picking 2.
The 2022 NBA draft goes to the Orlando Magic.
And Orlando is picking 1.
Wow.
The Orlando Magic are picking number 1 overall.
Wow. That is crazy.
What a turn of events, Austin. I need to get something up on stream here because I want to ask you if it's a possibility.
Wow. Okay, so Magic picking 1. That's not an outcome I saw, despite them having the second best odds. I couldn't rationalize in my head seeing them pick number 1. So really, what does this mean for this Magic franchise? I don't know if they look at Jabari Smith. Do they still go Jaden Ivey if they feel he's the best one? I mean, wow, that is absurd. That is absolutely absurd that they're picking 1. And, I'm looking at the Sacramento Kings once again in a really good position, even though they're picking 4th. That jump was absolutely huge for them. I felt they definitely needed that for their franchise. Houston's going to be in a really good position here as well. So there is so much going on with this. Let us know in the comments section below. What are we thinking here? Looking at the Thunder, what are the Thunder going to do now? I don't know. I don't know what to believe here.
Definitely crazy.
So we're going to put you on the spot real quick. With the top 4 picks, give us a quick 4-person mock.
Oh boy. Okay, so we got Orlando, OKC, Houston, and Sacramento. I think first overall, Orlando takes Jabari Smith. Second, Oklahoma City takes Chet Holmgren. At 3, Houston takes Paolo Banchero. And 4, Sacramento. Do they take Jaden Ivey and just go back into the issue with the guards? We will see what they do. But absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Austin, on the screen here, you can see I've got Chet Holmgren next to Jalen Suggs. The two of them played together at Minnehaha Academy in Minnesota. They also were AAU teammates. Clearly, the two of them get along. Holmgren followed Suggs' footsteps to Gonzaga. Any chance Orlando takes Holmgren first overall to pair with his old high school teammate?
I mean, I think it's a real possibility, which is just kind of crazy. I mean, maybe, do they have a little PTSD from taking a center in Mo Bamba? I don't know. I really have no idea. But obviously, Suggs is going to be slamming his hand on the table to go ahead and take Suggs, and to think that they could go from high school teammates to going to the same college, not obviously at the same time, but then eventually making it to the NBA and playing on the same team. That's just wild to me. I mean, what a story that is. So can we see Holmgren and Suggs? Very, 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 very well could. I just don't know how realistic it is.
I definitely think this opens the door back to Banchero maybe as the number 1 overall pick, even though that's not necessarily what I would do, because I think Orlando is badly in need of a scorer. And then I also think maybe we see another Philadelphia-Boston type of trade where Boston sent number 1 to Philly and then got pick number 3 back. Does Houston want to jump back ahead up to number 1 to try and get their guy? Is Orlando set on a guy like Paolo Banchero? What do they want to do with the selection? We'll talk about more of that in future videos for sure. Absolutely crazy. Those draft lottery was insane. We have the NBA mock draft coming out tomorrow morning as well, which I'm really, really excited for. Again, this tonight shakes up the entire league, and it does really have lasting impacts. Austin, what's some of your other thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just kind of shocked with how it panned out. I mean, I shouldn't be because it's the lottery, but the fact that the Magic jumped to 1 and then you find Sacramento randomly in the top 4, It's crazy. And I feel bad for Detroit tonight. I do. I mean, the fact that they fell to 5 with, the true blue chippers in those top 4, you wanted to be in that top 4 this year. However, very, very deep draft. So it's, not the worst year to have pick 5, though. That's something that we have to look at for a silver lining.
Definitely not the worst year to have pick 5 by any stretch. There's still some really good players out there. Remember, this is the final order. What happened through the lottery? Orlando moves up to number 1 at 2. Oklahoma City Thunder there. 3, the Houston Rockets are selecting. And at 4, the Sacramento Kings are there at that spot. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to leave a like on today's live stream and also subscribe. Check out some of our other content. I've got NBA draft big boards up and a whole bunch of other really great NBA draft content related. There's some scouting profiles. If you're curious on Leonard Miller as a scout prospect, go check that one out. I'm telling you, there's a lot of really good content on our channel to go watch, so make sure to go check it out. Interestingly enough, Austin, in my last mock, I had Orlando jump up to number 1 in the lottery sim, and I mocked Jaden Ivey to them at that point. Is that still a possible outcome, do you think, or do you think they opt to go for one of the forwards?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very, very possible outcome. I don't know. This draft's just kind of wild. I'm going to be honest. This is a really, really wild draft. I want to know what our subscribers think here about what they've seen tonight. I mean, how disappointed are these Detroit Pistons fans? They got to be super disappointed. Speaking of potential Pistons fans, we got Micro Mike in here, so thanks again for stopping by. I mean, wow. Poor Detroit fans. I can't imagine how they're feeling right now. Sports have been rough in the Detroit area. However, shout out to Lions potentially moving up for sure. A lot of Thunder fans are happy still. I mean, they're very, very content. And I have a feeling that these Sacramento Kings fans are jacked because jumping into that top 4 is kind of a game changer.
Yeah, it definitely is. Crazy turn of events here. Again, thank you all so much for tuning into today's live stream. We've got a bunch of other great content again on the channel. I really recommend going to check it out. Also, in the description right now, go give us a follow on our Instagram, on our Twitter, and also on our TikTok. We do post on all 3 of those platforms. We also respond to questions in our DMs and everything like that. So go follow us on there. If there's anything you want to say to us and ask us about or anything like that, we'll share our opinions and our insights there. Again, thank you all so much for tuning into the live stream. Hopefully you have enjoyed up to this point. I'm crazy excited about how this all played out. Absolutely insane. Again, as a Mavericks fan myself, I didn't have a horse in this race either, but it's always fun watching and seeing some of these teams get huge helps. I mean, Orlando, what a franchise-changing type of night it was for them. And then you look at, Oklahoma City. Sam Presti probably doesn't have to hold such a sad press conference again this year. So congratulations to them. And it's definitely in a situation right now where we're going to see maybe a changing of the guard with maybe teams like Orlando and Houston and Oklahoma City becoming really relevant basketball markets again. Of course, Houston was there just a short while ago, but Orlando, OKC, they've been hunting for it again for 3, 4, 5 years at this point. So we'll see how everything can go from there. Detroit basically is the 4th pick, because we all know the Kings are going to screw that pick up. That's an A+ comment right there. And even if they don't miss on it, they'll probably trade that selection. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. But it's going to be crazy. Austin, this is the hard one here.
One thing I want to say before we conclude this live is, guys, do not leave this place without subscribing. We want to see you around. We don't want this to be the last time that you ever see our channel. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I mean, it's absolutely free to all of you. So before you leave it, go ahead, hit that button. We want to make sure that we're part of, this NBA draft community. Love having you guys around. We got mock drafts, big boards. Someone does a lot of great work with that. So before you click exit on this video, hit that button. Let's be around. Let's talk. We're going to do a lot more lives, I think, here on out, just talking about basketball in general. Love having everybody in here representing their team. We're going to talk about our teams. I'm going to absolutely crap on my Clippers. So if you want to be around for that, want to see me become depressed boy about, my franchise, I would recommend sticking around and hanging out with us here at Utility Sports.
Definitely. Again, thank you so much for watching. Congratulations to Magic fans, Thunder fans. I'm sure that, you guys are all going through all those great emotions right now. Big apologies to the Pistons fans tonight. Feels like a big L, but don't worry. Troy Weaver, he's going to get you through it. Not something you hear from me very often, but I guess I'm in a good mood today. Again, thanks so much for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the live stream. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, go check out our socials in the description, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.